Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Despite my decent environmental credentials, I surprisingly haven't felt too badly about the copious amounts of plastic that I use in my everyday life. Like all environmentally conscious people, I've reduced, I reuse, and I recycle. And then I move on. Well, unfortunately, according to the United Nations, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, only a small percentage of all the plastics that we recycle are actually recycled. In 2007, a dismal 6.8% of the plastic put in recycling bins nationally was actually recycled. On top of this, when plastics break down, they do something that's called they do not biodegrade, they do something called photodegrade. And this means that the plastic breaks down into smaller pieces that readily soak up toxins contaminating our waterways, our soil, and animals who ingest them. Plastic has contaminated the oceans to such a degree that according to a 2006 report by the United Nations, every square mile of the oceans has approximately 46,000 pieces of plastic floating in it. Yes, this big, beautiful sea that we in these parts have come to love so much is quickly turning into a toxic soup. The contamination is so great that some of the areas where ocean's currents have collected debris have turned into huge islands of trash. According to the Algalita Marine Research Foundation, as much as 6 times more plastic than plankton is recorded in these areas. Plastic bags wrap around corals, suffocating them and killing them. In a Los Angeles Times report, of the 500,000 albatross chicks that are born each year, in one particular area called Midway Atoll, approximately 200,000 of the chicks will starve. They'll die of starvation because parents have fed them plastic instead of food. In addition to that, feeding a chick plastic is the equivalent of delivering a poison pill because of the toxicity and elements such as PCB and DDT that are in this plastic. To a sea turtle floating in the piece of plastic floating in the ocean like a plastic bag, it looks like a jellyfish. Drifting nets will entangle fish and mammals, making it impossible for them to eat, much less move about. Of these huge plastic islands that exist, there's one that's approximately 500 miles off our coast here in the Pacific. The currents stretch all the way from the northern Pacific to the coast of Japan. This, known as the Pacific Garbage Patch, is made up of 7 billion pounds of plastic and measures about twice the size of the state of Texas. Since water keeps plastics cool and algae blocks out the ultraviolet rays, according to the Research Triangle Institute, every little piece of plastic that's been manufactured in the United States in the last 50 years and that winds up in the oceans is still out there somewhere. So what's the solution? Some cities and countries around the world have instituted a ban on plastics. Sounds like it's a good idea in light of some of the facts. Here in the United States, we go through 100 billion plastic bags each year, which it is a cost of about $4 billion for retailers who use these bags. Plastic bags are also the second most common type of refuse that's in the oceans, next to cigarette butts. And worst of all, plastics in the oceans remain toxic even after they break down. Yet according to a website that's called reuseIt.com, a ban on plastics is an emotional response which fails to strike at the heart of the issue. And the heart of the issue is our use and toss culture. Instead, what they suggest is a tax, a plastic tax. They cite Ireland's 2001 Plas tax, which is not quite an acronym, but it's an interesting play on words because it's P-L-A-S-T-A-X, Plas tax, sounds like plastics, so you won't forget it. And what this market-based solution did was it discouraged the daily thoughtless use of plastic bags by charging a nominal fee for each bag that's used at checkout. What this route does is it acknowledges that people will still use plastic bags occasionally, but according to the Irish Department of the Environment, it successfully reduced plastic bag usage in Ireland by 93.5%, which breaks down to a drop of 328 bags per individual use each year to 21 plastic bags. When I began my speech, I laid out for you all to see the plastics which I use in my daily life. Grabbing a quick cup of coffee at Pete's can so easily be replaced by a stainless steel mug, in particular one that has a ceramic inside versus plastic. Plastic water bottles, again, can also be replaced by plastic stainless steel. Laundry detergent in a plastic bag, I can return and use a box of laundry detergent. Hand soap, the same thing. I can go back to a bar of soap. I don't need to use hand soap in a plastic, because these are the very types of plastic that actually, if you go and look at pictures of the Pacific garbage patch, that actually make up that garbage patch, as well as things like children's toys and reusable containers that are made of plastic, mason jars, and other reusing other items is a much better solution. My goal in delivering this speech was not to lambast all of the plastic users out there. Instead, this was a speech really for me, because the next time I go to reach out and use one of these convenient items, I hope that I will remember the Pacific garbage patch and instead grab one of the non-plastic alternatives.